Now it's time for Ease Around the Table with your host, Easy, who I'm pretty sure is easier than me. Earmuffs, kids. Adults only. Just the way I like it.
And that means it's a Tuesday night at 10 o'clock. At Lenny Melnick, fantasysports.com, the Legend Sports Network. This is Easy Kill. This is the round table. And a small table tonight, right at the moment. I have one of the regular drinkers here on the round table. Doug, welcome to the show. Do I got sound? Do you have sound? Tonight, right at the moment. I have one of the Doug. Doug's checking my sound, but I don't hear him. Welcome to the show.
I cannot hear you.
You can't hear me?
Do I got sound? Do you have sound? I can hear you through the broadcast, but I can't hear you through my headphones.
Well, what do you I mean, I don't see where you have.
There you are. There you are. There.
No, there we go. Luckily, we get the technical difficulties out of the way right at right at the beginning. So
we want to let everyone know right up front how professional we actually are.
Hey, now. Right. I mean, does the word professional have anything to do with financial gain? If it does, we're right where we need to be, Doug.
I was looking at the thing on because on the speaker, and I think we've earned like well over $1 so far.
Woohoo! I guess I've not paid attention to that. Now I'm going to be turning my head a lot, Doug. I am in the middle of a great game.
Basketball? Baseball?
No. This is a national championship. Girls softball, the number 1 and number 2 team in the country. And I know people in this chat room will roll their eyes. They'll make fun or whatever. I find, and I've been watching the College Baseball World Series also. I enjoy both of those events. I know people will laugh and make fun and blah, 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 but the competitiveness, the quality of play, I'm just saying, I enjoy it. The girls softball, it's best out of 2 or best out of 3. You got to win 2. I know you don't care, probably, Doug. UCLA won last night in a blowout, 13-3 or something. I mean, everyone got up, hit a home run. It was like every other bat was a grand slam. It was exciting. So tonight it's 3-3, the top of the 4th, and Oklahoma was down 3-0. They've just come back. Oklahoma needs to win to go to a game 3 tomorrow night. So, again, I find it exciting. It's an exciting sport.
We talked in the past, and I said, I actually kind of like those other sports too. But right now, when I have the choice of Major League Baseball, I don't tend to make that pick right here. But there are times when it is.
And I'd be the first to tell you, you're right. I mean, it wouldn't even be an argument if right now we were watching. We have double A in the chat room on YouTube. I think I normally don't even pay attention. But we do have him out there. That was a bunch of athletes who will either make a great mother or a great lesbian in the near future. Maybe. I don't know. There's a few, I don't even know, is it politically correct? There's a few very attractive girls on these softball teams. And then there's a few very athletic looking females on these teams.
And there's a few that are both.
A few though. Hey, I'm just saying, if you got a chance, turn it on. The UCLA's catcher has my eye. I don't know. I mean, a tall, attractive blonde, good hitter. And she's about a foot taller than everybody else on the field. I don't know. I don't know. A girl in a baseball uniform is a fairly attractive thing.
I
for
agree.
Me. I'm sorry. So in Oklahoma, I'm just saying, I mean, and that's not even part of it for me. Not that they're attractive. It's just a very competitive game. Women's softball. And again, last night was I've watched enough of it to know for a team to score 13, 14 runs is pretty unique. These are very high quality pitchers at this level of college girls softball. In most cases, college pitchers in this, at this point of their career, a lot of these girls go on and play for national teams and stuff like that. Meaning if you're pitching in national championship teams, the odds are you're one of the better pitchers in the country. I mean, because it's a pitcher's game.
Is that on one of the ESPN stations or?
Yeah, it is on ESPN. ESPN right now, they've been carrying both the softball and the boys baseball, and even the boys baseball. I mean, I was watching last night. Michigan was playing. I'm a Big Ten guy. The Ohio State Buckeyes, they were in the World Series. Their championship will be next week. They're a week behind the girls, so the girls' championship is tonight. Well, it's the next 3 nights because it's the best out of 3. Tonight could be the crowning. If UCLA wins tonight, they're the champions. So, but I'm just saying, I know there's baseball on tonight. I gotta say, I don't even know what else is on. Is it hockey? I don't think basketball. Basketball was last night. Maybe tonight's hockey. I was streaming one of them, but when we start the show, I turn the streaming off. I'm not gonna not watch a national championship to just watch a random June game of baseball. Now the Reds would be on one of my televisions, but they're rained out right at the moment. I don't think they've started yet.
I was watching the Cubs before I joined your show.
Well,
that's what I find myself doing. Is like I've actually become more parochial. I'm watching more and more of the Cubs who I like than like jumping around looking at all different games. It's like I don't know. I'm maturing as a baseball fan or something.
Okay. I mean, I get it. And I'm a fantasy guy. I've been watching my fantasy team. I got that going here. I mean, I've watched, my team is going off. You ever have one of those weeks where one of those days, my team is going off, but the guy I'm playing, he's going off just as much. You're like the 2 best teams right now. It's like, holy cow. My batting average is 370. I've got 13 RBIs, 3 home runs, 7 runs batted in, or 7 just runs scored, and I'm still losing in almost every category. It's like, Yeah,
at the beginning of the season, I had a lot of that where I'd be pitching and my pitchers would have like a 2.36 ERA and a 103 WHIP, but the other guy would have like a 194 ERA. It's like, well, that's the slings and arrows of outrageous.
Right, and what's worse is my team's actually been pretty good. I'm in one of the cha-cha leagues. My team's been pretty good. And then I even looked at the schedule. I probably should have done it. I did the thing you shouldn't do. I looked ahead and realized, okay, because I've got a lot of injuries right now, but I knew, and a couple of guys coming back. I thought, well, I just need to get through the next couple of weeks. And I looked ahead in the schedule and I'm like, hey, I'm playing the last place teams. Back-to-back weeks, I'm playing the 2 worst teams so far in the league. Last week, the one beat me. And this week, right now I am losing. Now it's early, but it's just like, man, I realized I had a bad week, but I thought if I had a shot at winning Sunday at about 4:30, I was winning 6-4 because it's head-to-head category. I was winning 6-4 at 4:00, and then things happened. I didn't even check the scores till later that night. Like at 11 o'clock, I ended up losing 4-6. I'm like, it's just one of those where 2 categories flipped. There was like only 3 games left in the night, and they flipped my ass in those 3 games. It's like, yeah, just pisses you off. But
I've had my experience in the same kind of league is that I've run like 3 weeks in a row where the score has either been 5-6, 5-5, or 6-5.
Right.
So like I without really losing a week, I've dropped from 2nd place to 4th place. I mean, I'm still right there. It's like the numbers are very close, but it's just like, It's
right.
Like you go an entire week and the weekend's 5-5, 2 weeks in a row. You're like, well, that doesn't really get a lot done.
The Double A put in there. The Marlins have 15 runs tonight. Is that what he's put? He said they have 15 tonight. Is that true? I'm not paid attention to I'm not sure. I don't know who they playing because I'm looking at scores. I don't have anybody.
Yeah. Wow. They have a lot going on for them.
Who were they playing? They playing Milwaukee?
They're playing the Brewers, yeah.
Okay. 0-15. I obviously do not have anybody in that game. I don't even have anyone on either of those teams.
Well, Miami's not a very good team, so you can kind of overlook that. But Milwaukee, I mean.
Yeah, I know. But hey, Milwaukee's in my Cincinnati Reds bracket, so I struggled drafting too many of them.
I think the one thing that happened was in my big league, it's the one I'm the commissioner of, the one with the biggest money, the one I talk about the most, the DFS points league. I lost Andrew McCutcheon this week, and so I'm probably gonna spend money on this Harold Ramirez dude. Another hit game. So
you think it'll help? I mean, because I'm the same way. I lost Springer, D. Gordon, and Molina all in the last couple of weeks. So I'm like, that's pretty much a lot of my offense. So I'm like, okay, I just got to survive, a couple of weeks, till maybe they come back. Because my offense,
it depends on the size and scope of your league. I mean, the league I'm talking about is a 16-team 5 outfielder league.
Oh yeah,
and so
you lose somebody in that, you're in trouble.
Yeah, there's not a lot. It's like Harold Ramirez, Jason Kipnis has outfield eligibility. He's one of the better guys,
right?
And then outside of those two, I'm not really So yeah, you're gonna go after those.
McCutcheon ended up being an ACL. Is that a confirmed thing now?
It's confirmed he's out for the year.
Okay, it is confirmed he's out for the year. All right. So it's I happened to be watching live when that play happened. It did look weird, and the whole thing shouldn't even happen the way it happened. It was one of those weird, which you don't see often. Little league coaches like to coach it or talk about it. It's where they're, did you see the play? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I mean,
the guy dropped the ball he dropped the fly ball on purpose for the double play. And again,
the truth is, Andrew Munchen shouldn't have been running. He should have just taken the force out at second. You know what I mean? Hang out at first base. Don't even move. Let him throw to second and force out.
Right. Well, I think, believe it or not, and that's what we get in this thing sometimes. They're professionals, but even professionals, I'm sorry, I've watched a lot of baseball. I've not seen that very often. It's really ballsy to drop a ball on purpose because you don't know where it's going to bounce. I've seen balls. Now, you're right. If you drop a ball from that high 100 times, 90 of the times, it is going to come right back up to you, which is what it did. But it could have kicked any direction, and then there's no outs. I'm telling you, I would have trouble telling someone on my team, hey, let that bounce and go for a double play. Especially in that situation. The game wasn't like it wasn't like they needed the double play specifically, but
I imagine it was the way the ball was hit. It's like as a fielder, he probably felt that he had a good idea of control of where the ball was.
He let it hit his glove and then kind of drop it. It was kind of weird, even the way he did it. He realized I could catch this, but at the last second, it hit his glove and he let it drop. I don't know. I mean, it ended up being a heads up play. It just obviously puts out a good play. Now, and again, the part that someone got injured was just kind of unique that it happened on that play.
Well, I mean, even in that, it's like, why? It's like he was dead to right either way. Why did he work so hard? I mean, I guess it's a testament.
Well, okay, and hey, I don't want to
everyone always says
throw Andrea under the bus, but she's one of those that will holler and scream that these guys make $1 billion, so they should hustle every play instead of being smart and holding back because an injury is worse in some cases.
There's no advantage of being in that rundown. Sometimes you get the rundown like where you're stuck between first and second.
Right.
But there's a guy on third. And by being in a rundown, you know that guy scored. But in this situation,
if I'm not mistaken,
he was out unless somebody threw the ball away or dropped the ball.
Well, okay. And again, I have multiple televisions. Within that same time period. I was watching the NCAA baseball tournament, not the girls softball, the baseball, because Michigan was playing, and the pitcher, it was one of those where the pitcher caught the guy off of second base. So the guy at second base realized he was so he just took off running to third, but the pitcher had to pause for a second so he didn't balk. Mm-hmm. And then when he threw it to third, he threw a shitty throw. Long story short, it was a weird, quick, rundown, but the guy ended up being safe. So if you do hustle and do strange things, obviously, things can happen. Now, in a College World Series, which last night was a winter advance game, I think you do whatever it takes. Right. I'm sorry, the first week of June, Phillies don't have a ton of outfielders. They just signed Bruce the day before.
And it's only the first inning. Maybe you think differently in the ninth or the eighth,
Maybe, right, after you see the flow of the game. But again, do you get upset that a guy tries or hustles? I mean,
well, I'm upset from the standpoint that I have a fair amount of teams banking on McCutcheon being a good player this year.
Right,
he's not there. It just kind of stinks. But that's the thing I always say. Like, people like to complain. Like, you'll always see these people posting up like, "Look at my team; everybody's injured." And my belief is that if things work out right, there's 530 injuries a year, or 530 IL stints a year,
especially now with the new 10 days, right. 15,
and it's basically gonna balance out. That thing. It's like I lose McCutcheon, but the other guy lost Altuve, and the other, this other guy lost Judge, and this other guy doesn't have Stanton, and so we all are missing one key player. It'll still be a good league.
Well, I thought I lost Miguel Cabrera also because they were talking like he was going to be on the IR, and hell, he ended up DHing tonight, and he's got 5 RBIs. He's gone 3 for 4.
I've been telling people that all along. It's like everything about Miguel Cabrera looks okay, except for except for I could beat him in a foot race.
Well, right. He's a hitter. He's not right. The problem is he just can't play in the field much anymore, and I think that's what they're talking about now. He's going to DH a lot.
He has like it's like 50 on nearly 50% of the balls that he hits are at 95 miles an hour or higher. He's hitting a lot of ground balls. It's gonna work out eventually for the guy. He's not going to be a 33 home run guy, but he's going to be from this point forward. He's going to hit 20 home runs. So he's going to be.
I would agree. I mean,
home run guy.
He only has 2 home runs now. What I like about him right now is he's batting almost 290. He's got decent RBIs. I think 25-ish or so. And it's not like I was one of the, I punted first base, believe it or not. And so I always believe you can find first baseman.
That's the big difference. Is like what did you pick him like in the 12th round or?
I can tell you that exactly.
I know that like in my one league, I was able to buy him for.
I got him in the 11th round. I got him in the 11th round.
I was able to get him for $11. For $11, he's going to do that much work. He's going to do an 11th round worth of value.
Well, I think right now he's doing better than 11.
That's what I'm saying.
And I have him and Smoke. Those are my 2 first basemen. So obviously, based on that, you can tell I punted first base. Just because it just always seemed like every year to me, a first baseman pops up. And again, right now, Cabrera and Smoke are doing okay for me for where I got them. And I don't know. It just seems like first base is one of those places where, you just always, and now I cut him. I had Pujols, who at the time was first base eligible. Those were I started the season. Those were my 3 first basemen. And obviously, like I said, hadn't been great, but they've been okay for what I paid for them. I'm obviously, on this team, I was more, I'm definitely outfield heavy, which is where I kind of went. But injuries you're right. People complain all the time, but the way I think injuries in baseball actually is more part of weekly management than it is in football. I think, football, I don't know.
I kind of disagree with that. I think that the injuries are such a big part of football. It's like literally, if it weren't for the fact that there's bye weeks, injuries would be all you'd be talking about.
Well, no, but okay. Here's where I think I disagree a little bit.
But injuries are a big part of baseball. The difference between baseball and everything else is that you can lose a guy for 3-4 weeks and it doesn't really kill your season.
Right. You just manage through it. You manage through it, and then you're able to pick somebody up or do something. And you pick somebody off the waiver wire who gives you 65% of what you lost, and you use that 65% for 3 weeks, and then the rest of the year you have your guy back, and it's okay. And because your guy's out, the other guy's out, everybody has people out. It tends to balance roughly. Well, like I said, my thing is, and again, this league happens to have just 4 IL spots or DL spots, whatever you want to call them. And, right now I have them all full and one other person eligible. And that's my only thing is I always hope, I just don't want a 5th guy. If I can manage my 4, spots and get people to pick them up, I'm fine. It's when you get over that limit and then you have to decide, do I drop a good guy that's on the DL for 10 days or do I ride that technically 1 spot less and just see how it goes?
I've been pretty lucky this year with the injuries, if I got to be honest. Outside of like in the AL only league, where if you lose a guy, it's death.
Then it's devastating, right?
It's like I lost Jose Altuve and Elvis Andrus in that one, but it's like I'm basically losing guys that I really wouldn't mind cutting anyway. It's like, oh, Neil Walker went to the IL. It's like, okay, who cares?
Right. Well, like I said, and it's like Molina. I hate to see him go on DL because as a catcher, is he the best catcher out there? No, but he is the one that you put out there. They hardly rest him. He catches every day. He's more than above average in most categories for a catcher.
Yeah, he's a good safe pick, and he's one of
exactly.
He's and probably like 4 catchers that are worth drafting. The rest of the catchers draft because you have to draft them,
right? But when he goes down, and actually hadn't hurt me yet. I ended up getting, is it McCann or McCann? Is that, yeah, James McCann from the White Sox.
There's also a Brian McCann. That's why.
No, this is James, and he's doing he's batting 338.
He's actually he's there. He gets less games than the other catcher, but he just does well with his games.
Yeah, but
and
I've had him now for a week, and they've only sat him one time. So it's not like the rest of him.
Well, that's the thing is that the White Sox aren't that great of a team, so
so he's playing and he's batting fourth.
DH games.
Batting fourth my thing. If you can get a catcher that bats fourth and only rests once every other week or so,
I only can in a league or two because those are the kind of guys I go for. I tend to punt catchers completely.
Right.
So I look at catchers and I go, what I really want from a catcher is somebody that's not going to hurt my batting average.
Right.
And
that's the word. That's hard to do even with good catchers.
James McCann is he's actually, if you're playing an OBP league, he's actually a pretty good OBP catcher.
Yeah.
No, help you
not,
in that. What?
It's not.
His average is like 265, which is
his average is 338 right at the moment.
This year it is, but I mean,
right.
If you get 268 out of your catcher, you're fine. That's like, that's basically what everyone does. It's not going to hurt you, and so he'll chip in 7 home runs or whatever, and 41 RBIs, and whereas somebody else winds up getting a Mike Zunino and it gets him like 14 home runs, but that one guy alone will drag their batting average down by.
No, I don't think. Do you think there's ever a time or ever a league or a team where you carry 2 catchers on a roster?
Well, I mean, there are 2 catcher leagues, but
I'm talking a single catcher league. Is there ever a reason to have more than 1 catcher on your roster?
There are. I mean, if bench space allows it, you could have like there are teams that have like very large bench spaces. I play in for instance because there isn't I keep coming back. I play in a 16 team 1 catcher league because there isn't a lot available on the waiver wire on a week-to-week basis. If you have a couple injuries, you're picking between somebody that doesn't do very much, or you might pick up a second catcher.
Right.
I would say that 3 or 4 of the teams in that league, they play 2 catchers. The guy that has the most points on the year has Alfaro and it's got 2 decent catchers, Alfaro and Brian McCann. And whereas most teams will just take zeros from those couple days where those guys are out. It's like he gets to put guys in there, and it's, when you're looking at something super deep, it's like now all of a sudden the catcher production isn't that awful. So I would say there's that. Or if you just have the space, because there are situations where I remember a couple of years ago, it wasn't even that long ago, where I played I wound up carrying the Suzuki kid and Tyler Flowers simultaneously, and they were both catching for the Braves.
But see, I actually
always had a catcher in because one of them played. And
well, that was the thing. I was actually, when I started the question, that's where I was going. I believe the only time you want 2 catchers is if you can get both okay catchers on the same team, so that you know who you're playing. I think when you end up with 2 catchers on 2 different teams, I'm amazed how often when I've noticed that is on Sunday they're both being sat.
On Sunday, every catcher sits on Sunday.
Right. Yeah. So you're like,
both. If there are 2 decent catchers, like if you could have like this year, if you could have Mitch Garver and Jason Castro on the Twins, I can understand that as long as it fit your roster and it wasn't meaning a better player. Right. But there's a couple situations like
and
Jan Gomez.
Those 2 are similar catchers, so their stats are going to be the same. So as long as they're on your, you're not hurting yourself one way or the other.
I imagine McCann and the other guy is what's his name, Wellington Castillo. That wouldn't be too bad
for the White Sox.
Yeah, there's not a lot from in an AL only league. Maybe Pedro Severino.
Well, my bench isn't big enough that I would do that. I'd rather just take back to my point. I'd rather have McCann. Now,
if you're
and I have Molina, knowing that I'm willing to take that 1 day off, every 10 days rather than the guy who's being sat. There's teams that sit their catchers every 3 days, or 4 days, and was it? I'm trying to think. I think Houston last year, weren't they working 2 catchers pretty much most of the year last year? It was either Houston or Arizona, one of those.
Arizona's been doing that for a little while.
Right. So if you have both of those, I get it if you have a big enough roster. But, I'd much rather just take the hit on someone not playing that spot and then have a better,
because you actually find in some leagues, and this is actually something it's like among my pet peeves that thing people do is like if you play in a league that sometimes they'll look at how bad the catchers are and teams will just not have a catcher on their team. So
I don't think I can do that.
So they can field an extra outfielder, an extra pitcher or something. And I go, no, that's not what it is. I mean,
now I guess, okay, if it came down to where I punted it all together and it really came down to my only option was somebody that's going to bat 224, and do nothing, then maybe I'd take that. But that's
I think that by rule, if somebody, like if you asked me to join a league, I would ask you a series of questions about it. I'd say like, what site are you going to be on? That's something I want to know. It's like, how many teams, right? I would actually ask you the question, is it a one catcher or two catcher? If you said to me it's a one catcher league, then it's a one catcher league.
Right.
If something goes zero catchers,
you have to fill and that's the thing, I think where you're going, meaning at a minimum you have to roster a catcher, or at a minimum you have to actually have one on your, meaning you have to have one in that catcher spot.
You have to roster a catcher. I mean, like if you had Gary Sanchez on your team and you drafted him as your catcher and he got injured and you just didn't want to pick up another catcher, you could play an injured Gary Sanchez. It's sort of skirting the rule, but you just don't get that roster spot back.
I got you. Right.
You know what I mean? It's like
meaning, like on ESPN, you would go in and you could put. I know on ESPN you can put mins and maxes, so you could put a minimum. You have to have one catcher, and if not, then that's technically a roster. Roster error, and it shouldn't be allowed. Well, welcome there, Mr. Hawaii. For the first time, we don't have a nice blue background. Usually
it's raining.
It's rain. Oh, Hawaii. See, I'm never going. I just couldn't go to Hawaii and put up with that kind of crappy weather.
No kidding.
So when it rains, that's your day off, huh? You don't have to, nobody wants to take a tour in the rain?
Yeah. Plus I have a long one scheduled for all day tomorrow, so I was pretty happy to cut it short today.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm glad you joined us. We were really talking nothing. I don't even know what we were talking about. We just started talking.
We're talking about fantasy baseball. That's the point of all this. I mean, I think it's the point of the entire station is that we have a bunch of kindred spirits who want to talk about baseball and fantasy baseball. And I thought about fantasy baseball specifically
today because I do catch myself listening. Again, right now, my work, this is our peak time. So I'm doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm less in the chat room, but I'm still listening during the day. So I do hear a lot of the shows. And I agree. The good thing about our network is, how do I say it this way without sounding negative, but at the same time it's positive? I like that most of the host, whatever was just talked about on the show just before theirs really doesn't matter. They already either had it planned or whatever, and they're going to say what they want to say. Where like FNTSY, my problem with FNTSY is, they ended up with like just 5 hosts doing 18 shows. Well, once you learned that host, his opinion on a certain thing, you knew that was going to be the same opinion regardless what show he did. I mean, so you heard the same information over and over, and because they were hosting and guesting on each other's shows, you just get bored. Where I know when Kevin comes on after JJ, it really didn't matter what JJ talked about. Kevin's going to bring it either. If he repeats it at all, it's going to be his way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and you're going to get his opinion. But in the most part, I realized that we really don't duplicate each other that much. I mean, it really is. Obviously, if there's a big event that occurs in a day or the night before, everyone might bring it up. But
there was like that bat flip day where everybody talked about bat flips.
Right.
It's like we've never talked about bat flips on my show. It's like, no, I can't do it. 7 shows have covered it.
Right.
I can't.
And I do get it now. Now that we actually have the 2 or 3 hours every morning filled, it is nice to just put it on at 9:00, and you get Lenny and then Arnie and then Lou, or vice versa, or you get Lou and Cha Cha and then Arnie, whatever the combination is, depending on the day. But they all talk a little different about different things. So because that is as a fantasy fan, which is what I bring to the table, is I'm a fantasy fan that will give you my opinion. If I'm going to listen to a bunch of repeated stuff on a network, I'll then turn on a podcast, meaning I want more than one opinion, because in the long run, I'm going to make the decision but I like listening to the show that Doug and Dan do where they talk about something. And then I want to hear Kevin's opinion. Then I want to hear, and then I'm going to decide, I don't.
Everybody should tune in. Doug and Dan are going to be on this Thursday, and you want to listen to this one because we sent out a question to Twitter into the baseball universe about giving Dan some baseball themed pot strain names. And we're gonna go over some of the winners in that, and he's actually gonna name a pot strain after this. There were 28 people that threw out names. 115 different pot strains. I'm not gonna. I have the list in front of. I have a list not in front of me, but I can pull it up because we were part of it. But like, there were some good ones in there. I know Kevin threw one out there. I think you were just Suicide Squeeze, but I threw out there like Twilight Doubleheader, Bobblehead Night. I thought those were good names. But we'll see who wins, and they're going to be it. So Thursday is going to be.
Who are the judges?
Well, no, it's Dan. Dan runs a legal.
Dan's going to pick what the one.
He's constantly hybriding new strains, and he's going to name one of the things. I listed a. It's hard because we have a rule about talking about other podcasts. I enlisted a friend from an old podcast I used to do. I said, if anybody can make this thing work, you do this. And he threw it up there, and we got a lot of different things. I know Kevin was on that night, but it's like Vlad Sedler gave a couple of things. FSTA award-winning writer Sammy Reed gave a few. Like there's some people in the fantasy industry.
But I do think that's what I like about our network is everyone gets on and gives their own opinion. And then again, there's me where my opinion means nothing. I'm just a fan saying, hey, here's what I've heard this week, or here's what I think, and because as fans, we do sometimes hear things different than what people are actually saying it. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? I mean, as a fan, I interpret it sometimes different than the experts. The experts are looking to catch you being wrong or catch you, where your facts aren't exactly right or whatever. Where as a fan, I don't care. Just give me the information. Then I'll listen to somebody else talk about maybe that same player and then somebody else, that same player. And then I'll make my decision based on the, what I look up or what I find. And, I like that part.
I think one thing we do that actually kind of saves our butts a little bit is that we all broadcast live. And so when you're live, you get a little bit of flexibility with being a little wrong about the numbers. We kind of make fun of that on our show. Like, if I say somebody, this guy was the 8th fastest, fastball this year, and it turns out he was the 11th. I mean, who really cares?
Yeah.
The point is there. But
Sell
if you're doing a podcast
it.
and you're taping, you're editing, you got to get that shit right.
Right. But again, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys listen to other podcasts. I've listened to a bunch over the years, and actually I find myself listening to less now because I listen to our network. But when it comes to the podcast, I am amazed at how often a lot of the baseball ones are, the ones that are recorded in the morning, then the news breaks in the afternoon. Technically, the podcast they just recorded is almost useless sometimes by the time you're listening to it, which again makes us a little nicer that we're getting it live and all that. Kevin, are you how many days a week are you now? I was thinking Thursday and Friday, or am I thinking what days are you doing now?
No, just Thursday still.
Why am I thinking you were on Friday too? I thought you did 2 shows after JJ, but that's all right. So just Thursday. Now, just because you do a 1-week show, and I listen to it almost every time, are you preparing all week for that show? Or are you waiting to see what breaks maybe a day or so before, and you guide the show based on things that are happening closer to the day you do the show? Or do you go, on Sunday, I know I got a show Thursday and this came up, I'm going to try to work that towards that. What's your process to prepare?
I work on it all week long, and lots of times something will pop in my head immediately after a show. And I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that next week. And then things happen throughout the week, but almost inevitably something comes up on JJ's show or in the chat room during JJ's show or breaking news that day. Right. Almost always at least half of the show is brand new that I wasn't prepared for.
Right. Which when you're live, that's different than what Doug just said. He stepped out for a minute, but what Doug just said, that's to me what makes fantasy and/or/sports a little different. it's not just some random, because okay, the other podcast I've slowly become into the true crime podcast where I'm listening to some of these, but they're talking about some murder case that happened in 1988. Obviously they have a month to get it right and plan, and then you're listening. When you're doing sport stuff, the shit changes pretty quickly sometimes, and you have to be ready. I mean, and again, it's like this show. I prepare. I have to have questions, I feel, and have some way to go with it. But I never on this show. I always kind of have an idea that, like today, I said something to Doug and we went on a tangent. We just kind of go off because, like I said, it's a little different. So now I'm curious. Are you using like Google Notes or some kind of a note? How are you keeping track? If you say Thursday after the show, you already have something in your head. Are you jotting that down electronically on a pad? What is your process? When
I am not at home, then it's electronically. I put it in my phone. If I'm at home and then especially what I would call my final draft, the morning of the show, I'm a fan of an old fashioned yellow legal pad. Okay. That's my notes for my show.
Right. Because I'm a Google, I don't even think they call it Google Notes, whatever it's called, Google's note thing. I just open that up, because it's either on my lap. What I like about that, it doesn't matter if it's on my phone, my laptop, or my computer at work. If I happen to type something in there, because these shows are a little different, I'll get a topic because of something you might have talked about, or JJ brings something up, and I'll go, okay, that could be a roundtable topic, meaning, he'll bring up like a top 10 list, and I go, you know what, we'll go into that deeper, so I'll just jot a one-liner down, so that at least when I'm doing the show, if I'm, if like here, I got 3 pages of those kind of things, so if we get slow, I might, I'll go down the list and go, oh, here is something, JJ said, and I'll bring it up that topic. So I'm just kind of same thing. I'm doing electronically. Now, here's where I'm old school, but then I always print it just before the show starts. I print it out. And part of that was, I don't know, the one time me and Lou were doing a Sunday show and my internet stuff went out, and, I ended up having to do it for my cell phone out there. And at that point I wasn't printing it. And I realized we're doing a show and I don't have any of my questions for Lou because I didn't, they were all on electronic, and, I had very limited internet access. So now I do print it before every show, figuring, okay, if something happens at a minimum, I have audio, I can at least, I have the notes in front of me, but,
I did the same thing. I did a show with, Andrea, it was opening day of baseball season. I did a show with her that evening, and she sent me the Google notes that she had to ask me to add to them prior to going on the show. And when I had my things added, I printed it out, so I had it in front of me.
Right. You just don't, it's hard to trust that process. I trust it, but then the one time it went down, I'm like, all right, which again is why we didn't have a show last week. People who know, I was able to, we had the tornadoes hit here on Monday last week. So our power and internet was going in and out, most of the week. So I, just couldn't really prepare or have anything ready. I have learned to at least print them out, but I don't handwrite much anymore. Now I do, once I print it out, I'll put little notes or little, things, but, cause you said it, something happened on JJ show. Cause obviously, unfortunately, that's where I get in trouble in the chat room. If I'm in the chat room during somebody's show, I have been known to sometimes turn a topic because I'll say something smart ass, or I'll say, or I'll just give my true opinion, which again, sometimes as a fan will be different than what, JJ will want to be or whatever. And, every once in a while, me and JR will get JJ way off topic sometimes, where he cracks me up. JJ cracks me up because I don't know how he keeps tabs on his chat room, because I let the chat room just roll. And then if I happen to see something, I'll kind of just in my head go, okay, Kevin said something or blah, blah, blah. And I try to mix it in with what the topic is. Well, JJ just goes off on his topic and then goes back and reads the chat room. And half the time what's in that chat room was for the topic he did before that topic. And, it's, he does pretty good at it, but every once in a while I can tell he's like, well, I don't think that has anything to do with what we're talking about right now. It was about what he talked about 10 minutes ago. It's, but I enjoy JJ in the middle of the day, just having that general sports knowledge.
It's perfect for me with my time change. It's 8 a.m. It's great. I drop my daughter off at school and I turn on JJ and I'm getting my day started.
Right. See, down here, I mean, I'm sure I think every big town has their sports talk channel, like, Andrea talks about the Fan in New York. Well, in Cincinnati, we have WLW, the home radio network for the Reds and everything else. Well, they do sports talk in the afternoon and evening, but I almost now, that used to be my go-to, but now JJ does it, and that keeps me up to date. And like I said, I'm not a hockey guy or a basketball guy even that much, but I still enjoy, listening and he's kind of like me. He doesn't bring fantasy into it 100% either. I think some of our baseball chat room fantasy people don't necessarily, we have some old timers in our chat room that if it's not just pure fantasy baseball talk, they're not participating, which kind of, I don't know, I find that funny and same time, I know sometimes time's limited. You come to a place, you want the information you want and nothing else, but like I said, the network's entertaining, but not a major topic, but something happened on TV tonight. And again, like we're talking, something random happens. The Reds game is on a weather delay, and I have it on the TV. Well, I don't know. Again, our local Fox is the Reds network. Well, obviously, when it goes to rain delay, they go into some pre-recorded weird, baseball things. And today they were doing nicknames of Cincinnati Reds players. And some of them I'd even forgot, but it just, and that's all I did. Back to the thing I opened up Google Notes and I just put baseball nicknames. I know we talked about nicknames as groups, like a month ago, Doug. Remember we were talking about, the Fab Five and all that as groups, but in baseball, and again, I guess I'm just curious, you guys, Doug, I know both of you are probably even more baseball than me, 'cause I'm just Reds, but what are some of the more, I guess I'm more interested in some of the more unique nicknames that you guys know, not necessarily the famous ones. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. Now I say that famous ones, what would be the first couple of most popular baseball nicknames that we have?
Go ahead, Doug.
Doug, you're muted or something. Doug, yeah, he did that at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I did.
There you go.
I jumped on the show late. I didn't actually bring something to drink, and my mouth was getting dry, so I just had to wait for a second. But like the Babe is probably the thing.
Okay. The Babe is one I had. Unfortunately, being here from Cincinnati, Charlie Hustle. I don't know. I mean,
Charlie Hustle's up there. There's no doubt.
Hard to see Charlie Hustle being one of the top.
Joe Jackson,
Shoeless Joe.
So, those are the real famous ones. The funny thing is it sort of dovetails into the whole like pot name thing, because there was like a strain of like.
Well, that's what you said. You brought that up.
People saying like the Flying Dutchman would be a good pot name. That was Honest Wagner, or the Mad Hungarian for Alabrowski.
Okay, but see, some of those you're naming. I mean, you obviously know the names, but to me, I know, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's back to the Bird. If I say the Bird, do you know who I'm talking about?
You're talking about that great song by Morris Day and the Knights from
the
Purple Rain movie.
No, Mark Fidrich. Mark Fidrich was the Bird, right? Right. I mean, I grew up. Mark Fidrich was the Bird.
Yeah, Mark Fidrich was the Bird.
I mean, so to me, to be a good nickname, obviously someone people have to know you by that. Kevin, what about Royals players? You're a big Royals guy. What do we have? Because Geronimo was the center fielder for the Reds, but he was just called the Chief. Which I'm pretty sure is racist. But back in the 70s, a guy named Geronimo, you could have him. His nickname was the Chief. But Cesar Geronimo. What about Royals in the history of you being a Royals fan? What are some of the big nicknames Royals players have had?
The one that comes to mind, or the first one for sure that came to mind, was the Hammer, was Bob Hamlin, who won Rookie of the Year, and then he was never heard from again. But he was referred to as the Hammer.
The Hammer.
Some of their most famous players, as I'm going through them, I don't recall
nicknames. One guy on the Royals that I liked was, who is that guy that this is more recent? Who's the guy that always played DH, Butler or whatever?
Billy Butler. Right. Yeah. Country breakfast.
Country breakfast.
That's right. That's right.
That's a Royals guy.
That's a good one.
Wasn't Dennis Leonard like he had some kind of religious nickname because he was like a pastor or a priest or something?
Right. Now the other one I thought is obviously two of the big ones that neither one of you named. I mean, catfish. I mean, is there any? I mean, catfish hunter is catfish hunter. There's not even another catfish that I know of. So to me, that's a pretty big nickname. And then Mr. October. I mean, if someone says Mr. October, I don't think a baseball guy has to even question who we're talking about, right?
Right. One of my favorite nicknames in any sport is still the big unit. There's only one that I know of. Only one guy has ever been referred to as the big unit.
And proud of it.
And proud of it.
Like the more obscure ones that are really great was Mike Hargrove was the human rain delay. That was a great nickname.
Yes.
Right. Now, but being a big fan of all sports, including I just saw UCLA jumping and dancing, so I'm not sure if I don't know if that was.
I put this on. I have split screen on my computer. I put it on. It seems like they celebrate every time they get their team out.
Right. Girls sports, there's a lot of celebration for everything. Which does aggravate me. Part of the girls softball.
Well, it's tough if you're watching it sort of like intermittently because you're always thinking there's a walk-off home run, but honestly, they struck somebody out. Okay, we're got another guy.
In men's baseball, the dugout never empties unless it's either a fight or a walk-off.
Yeah.
In women's softball, they empty the dugout for anything. It is pretty unique. Kevin, do you pay attention to college softball championships or the baseball championships?
I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. I've been going to the College World Series since I was a kid. I pay a lot of attention to that. The men's side. The women's I enjoy watching.
I do.
I have not caught much the last couple of days. I haven't been at home.
The finals are tonight. If UCLA wins tonight, it's over. They'll be our national champions. And what I like about it, we already talked at the beginning of the show. This is number 1 versus number 2 in the country. I mean, I've watched a lot of sports, and a lot of times it never works out that way,
Especially in big tournaments.
Right. And here you have the 2 best teams in the country playing for the national championship, and like I said, I agree with Doug. I'm not sure if it was a walk-off. I don't think it's played enough. I think it's only got to be like this.
They really celebrate every time they retire the side. I think they just turn the inning over.
They do. It is.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm not.
And again, I guess as a man, I don't know. Maybe that makes it better. I don't know. But okay, right. Obviously, the game's not over, so I have been watching. But I'm just curious now. It was 3-3. Okay, yes, UCLA must have scored. It's 4-3 now. Top of the 6th, and they only play 7 innings. Other nicknames. I guess the other one is because I'm here. I mean, does it count as a nickname if you got it before you were in the sport? Like for me, Sparky Anderson, and I've heard the story, Sparky Anderson's nickname just came from when he was like a kid, but he, technically Sparky's not his name. That's his nickname, but
Chipper Jones,
it became his name. Right. Chipper Jones, so
Larry
says that doesn't count because it's not really your baseball nickname, but at the same time, it became such a nickname that it became your damn name, so that's pretty good. I'm trying to think catfish hunter. I'm trying to think there was another pitcher I had in my head. When I was thinking other pitchers,
a nickname like
Goose,
like
Goose Gossage,
right? Doc Gooden,
right? Doc, right? Doc Gooden. Again, but baseball has always been a little more nickname-ish than most of the sports.
In baseball, you have a lot of time.
Well, and a lot more players too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching, the Cubs in the 70s when they weren't very good, and Jack Burkhouse would have to talk about this team for 4 hours or 3 hours, and you do things like that. You make up nicknames, you talk about their background, because there's a lot of downtime in baseball.
I wasn't a big Berman fan with ESPN, and I know he got he got popular. No, it went to the wall. I'm telling you, the UCLA catcher is a very attractive young lady. And again, she's like a foot taller than everybody else. Hush, Kevin.
Do you think that these guys got to UCLA because their parents gave $500,000 on a rolling?
I don't care. I don't care. But I don't know. It's been a fun game. I'm sorry I'm interrupting to watch a national championship.
I was the one that the girl hit it deep. It just turns out it was an out. It was fielded in foul territory against the wall.
Well, again, those pitchers are pitching like 67 miles an hour, 69 miles an hour, but they're only throwing from like 40 feet.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it plays like 90.
Right.
It's hard to hit that ball. You'll see every now and then. You'll see like at an All-Star game or something. You'll see like Jenny Fidge pitch to Major League Baseball players.
She has struck out a ton of men that have thought they could hit her
because it's just so different. The game is just so different. It's an entirely different approach to hitting a ball.
Right. So now that's another thing I hate ESPN. Every time the person comes up to bat, then they show a replay. This is the same chick that hit a home run earlier today, and they've showed it like twice in her bat. They keep showing the other. I keep thinking she hit another one. No, it's just ESPN.
It's the same one.
Replaying over and over again. But when Berman did all his, before they even did baseball, when he was giving everybody their weird nick, he was nicknaming,
When that started, it wasn't that bad because literally
it was good.
Yeah,
it was unique. It was unique at first.
A big contract to broadcast a lot of baseball games, and
Yeah,
because
they weren't even broadcasting games when he first started doing it. He just would do it on the news thing at night. When he first started, it was.
I remember it was like because of the way the contract worked out. There was always this game on at like 10:30 at night my time, and it was always one of the American League West teams. It would be like the A's versus the Mariners or the Rangers versus the A's. And I was pretty much convinced that I was, and I was probably doing homework for college or something. I was pretty convinced that I was like one of 5 people watching this game. And I bet the people who are announcing it were thinking like there's only like 12 people doing this. And so I think that they started doing like the weird names and the backpack just to entertain themselves. And
he literally did it on their newscast before he did games.
I remember him doing it on the Sunday Night Football show first, and before it got old fairly quickly. But Andre Bad Moon Rising is still one of the coolest things I've ever heard.
Right. But in most cases, the name usually only a couple ever stuck. Meaning he could say it, but it wasn't like it didn't follow most of them. But he did have a few that it actually ended up sticking to the guy. But yeah, Bad Moon Rising was one of the first ones, if I'm not mistaken, one of the early ones he even did. But like I said, I think he was doing those back before ESPN even had sports. Because he was their main guy at 11 o'clock at night, and when he would do the replays, he did it. But that's my point. It's just amazing that some of the nicknames just work out and some don't. But like I said, the Reds had a lot of them, and most of them, they were players you guys went, like I said, Cesar Geronimo, most people only know, he played for the Reds in the 70s for a little bit. And I just forgot that they called him the Chief, which now I say wasn't Parrish for the Boston, wasn't he also the Chief?
Yep.
Which reminds me, what in basketball? Now I'm thinking basketball. Do we have that many? Air Jordan, or was technically didn't Michael Jordan actually have a different nickname? To just call him Air Jordan? I thought early on they called him something else.
I'm not a big basketball fan, but I did watch Michael Jordan's career.
Right.
And I don't remember it. I'm actually going to look that up.
I don't remember another one.
Magic Johnson was Magic John. I mean,
Dr. J.
That's a hard name not
Dr.
to.
J, yeah.
I would say, Dr. J is a pretty. I think when you talk greatest nicknames of all time, it's similar to the one name singer, Cher or whatever. When you say Magic and you're talking sports, everybody knows who you're talking about. It's definitely a nickname that sticks.
There were those older guys in like that, in that late 60s, early 70s part of basketball where there was Earl the Pearl Monroe and George A. Smith.
And they're also Earl the Pearl Anthony. That was a bowler. Earl the Pearl Anthony was a bowler.
Earl the Pearl Monroe was first. The Big O, Oscar Robertson.
Oh yeah, the Big O. I forgot about Oscar Robertson.
But I'm thinking like more modern times. It doesn't really as good as you are. Like Larry Bird didn't really have a nickname, did he? I guess they called him the Great White Hope or something.
Penny Hardaway.
Yeah, Penny was Penny, but that's also a chipper nickname.
Yeah. Penny, I think, was just Penny most of his career. All right. Any other? Because
I always bring up my favorite nickname in the history of nicknames, and that is in baseball. There was a pitcher in the 40s named Hugh Mulcahy, and his nickname was Losing Pitcher.
Losing pitcher. I got a
Like,
feeling
that's gotta be the worst name.
Earned the nickname.
Yeah, he apparently lost a number of games.
He lost a number of games.
I actually do some writing, and I wrote a short story about how miserable his life must have been.
But
Could you imagine like
getting yeah, that would be terrible.
Like you live your whole life wanting to be a baseball player, and you make it, and you're good enough to play every day, and the world remembers you as losing pitcher.
Yeah, but isn't that if anything though, it's also tells you how tough sports are. Yeah. That you can technically be a losing pitcher, but still be one of the better people in the world that can do it. You know, I mean, which, like I said, sometimes I get upset that, some of these, not our network, just people in general, they get so upset at people for being so bad. And I'm like, in your opinion, yeah, he's having a bad season, or he seems like he shouldn't even be a professional, but he probably still is one of the greatest people in the world that, that can do this,
I mean, whenever there's like a pitcher who can't get anybody out, and they're like, this guy is a bum, shouldn't be there. It's like, there are probably only 12 or 13 people who are not on major league teams that could do this better than that guy.
Right.
And they just weren't able to find those 12 or 13.
Right. Especially pitching, right? I mean, probably in baseball, isn't that the one thing that you either are good enough to do it or you're not? I mean, I don't think there's too many people sitting around on their couch, that could do it, which, speaking of that was one of the other things, the baseball draft, which I just laugh at, because to me, the fact it's even televised now, it's just,
well, no. I mean, the NFL,
you might as well televise people at the corner gas station buying lottery tickets.
This whole thing is like, you can dislike the major league draft, but then you got
no, dislike is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, the percentages or the odds of any of these guys making it are just still, that's how hard it is. It's still minimal for these players that are good enough to get picked that they're even going to make it.
Well, I mean, it's like the NBA draft. Everybody's watching. The NFL draft is like a 3-day super special
because those guys make it. Some of those guys make it,
and some of these guys make it. Most of the guys.
Here was my question for tonight. Now, I don't know if I have the right guest here. This is truly my question for the people tonight. Are we more likely in the next 5 years to see a number 1 draft pick from Major League Baseball making it, into the pro baseball level? Or are we more likely to see someone drafted in the NFL in the first round making it?
Has there ever been in football?
In the next 5 years, I still think the guy who got drafted in football has a better chance to play baseball than the people drafted in the baseball draft.
In football, up to this point, has anybody who was drafted number 1 overall ever made the Hall of Fame?
That you missed. You're not. That's not my question.
Well, I'm just saying, like, baseball's already done it 3 times. I mean, like there is miss on both ends, and pretty significant misses on both ends.
No.
However, the misses in baseball are almost the entire first round. The thing that baseball does have going for it is they typically do hit with the top 2 or 3 guys. The rest of the first round is horrible. Now, the reason that I brought this up is last week when Carter Stewart signed the contract with the Japanese baseball team last week, I went and looked up all of the pitchers that were drafted in the top 50 picks 6 years ago, the 2013 draft, just to see where they were, what would compare to what he is going to be 6 years from now when he's a free agent and has $7 million in his pocket. You haven't heard of most of them, Doug. You have not heard of most of them. The ones you've heard of are busts. The most successful one is John Gray.
The top 50 is pretty deep. I would say if you go the first round plus the CBA picks plus
that's all I'm getting. I'm not even getting more than like 5 or 10 picks into the second round.
I mean, there aren't even 50 picks into 2013 of those levels. It's like you're going pretty deep. I think 2013. I was going to say like
Mark Appel was number 1, and then here's the whole nother aspect of it. Just the last 6 number 1 overall draft picks going backwards. You have Casey Mize last year, we know, because it was last year, and he's having a good year in minor leagues.
I think that's the real
right. The year before was Royce Lewis, who is still very highly ranked, but he's having a horrible year right now. The year before that was Mickey Moniak is almost a bust already. The year before that was Dansby Swanson, who was finally coming around. The year before that was Brady Aiken. Who's heard of him?
Brady.
And then the year before that was Mark Appel, who is definitely a bust.
Brady Aiken was actually drafted in the first round on 2 different occasions. That when he was drafted, he was the number 1 overall pick when Houston picked him. They found something wrong with his arm, and they negated the contract. Like, he had an injury that was not disclosed. That was a big deal. He was drafted the following year. He wound up on Cleveland, and he actually never was able to recover from that Tommy John surgery, which some people don't do.
Right, which is a lot of the reason that this happens with baseball.
This is 2013, which is a reason.
Pitchers.
The big difference between 2013 between baseball and basketball and football is there's a lag, and if you go back to 2013, that's a reasonable thing to see where it is, because if a guy is being drafted out of high school in baseball, he is 5 years away plus. And so
exactly.
But still.
But it's like Chris Bryant was drafted there, John Gray was drafted there, Clint Frazier, Colin Moran, Hunter Dozier, Austin Meadows, Philip Bickford's still in the Milwaukee Pen. Dominic Smith's played for the Mets. DJ Peterson's played for the Mariners. Hunter Renfro's hitting home runs for the Padres. J.P. Crawford just with the injured reserve.
Okay, you still can name like 2 players that are like normal starters. The rest of them, we
only got to 17, and Tim Anderson, Hunter Renfroe, Austin Meadows, Hunter Dozier,
all right,
Clint Frazier, Chris Bryant are all normal starters.
Okay. Doug, and I agree that you have to have the draft, and I agree that you got enough hours of television network out there that yes, MLB can put it on TV. It just isn't the same as the other sports where the players are impact players
immediately.
Which is, again,
the basic thing is that basically NFL has their minor leagues played for them. And their minor leagues is college football.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's like you probably they're probably, I don't know, like every now and then you hear about a baseball player who starts at age 18 or 19. What was the last time you heard of a football player starting at one of those young ages? I mean, I know they have rules about like,
right. It's harder because
it doesn't happen because I think it's like we're getting these people. The average age of somebody drafted on.
But let me rephrase my question again, because I don't think the way you answered it, you heard what I said. If we were to just make a bet, I'm going to rephrase it. If we're going to make a bet, let's say $100, would you take Kyler Murray or anyone else drafted in the first round of Major League Baseball to be an impact player in baseball 5 years or later from now?
Oh, I'm taking the baseball drafted players in a heartbeat.
Kyler Murray,
absolutely.
I think Kyler Murray is going to be in Major League Baseball.
I think it's the nature of things.
Like, right, but there's players in this draft that are going to be in Major League Baseball in 2 to 3 years. This was a good draft. There's a half a dozen guys that would go number 1 overall many years, and Kyler Murray was not. He didn't. He went in the top 10, but he was not number 1. He was 8.
Right.
So
going 9th. Or he did go 9th. I think he went 9th.
He did go.
But the reason why EEZ would win this bet is because Kyler Murray is probably going to be the starting quarterback in the NFL by week 4. So at least he has the opportunity to make an impact.
No, but I'm still saying
he's saying as a baseball player.
And he has a better shot at being a baseball player than most people in the Major League Baseball draft yesterday.
No, I would give you heavy odds and take that bet every time.
Because I personally don't believe he's going to make it in football. I really think,
but then he has to start all over on this 6-year path to get to Major League Baseball.
But because of his name and what he's been through, his path will be opened up much quicker than other people because he'll sell tickets. And,
we've been watching what's his name do the Tim Tebow.
Well,
in the minors, get an automatic buy to the minor league all-star team, and he sells tickets. I mean, I used to go to the Firefox game all the time. I switched my allegiances this year. But when the Firefrogs played Port St. Lucie, there were 12,000 people there because Tim Tebow was playing. And yeah, he'll get that stuff going.
All right, we are not anybody cares. We are in the top of the 7th. Oklahoma is up to bat. They are down 1 out. So if Oklahoma doesn't score
this time when they celebrate, it'll be a real celebration.
UCLA will be the national champions. Not that anybody cares, but I do, and I'm watching. If this was the, March Madness finals, we all be watching and paying attention. These girls, these teams are just as qualified as boys basketball or any other sport. Like I said, these pitchers on these two teams tonight are going to be playing on USA teams, in national, they're both very good pitchers, and they're going to, I don't know what career you call it, but Olympics or whatever for women's softball, but
there are competitive women's softball leagues that don't really play in America. Mm-hmm. There are ones in America, but they don't pay as well. No,
but these two girls are going to be, if I'm not mistaken, they've already been picked to be on the USA national softball team. But so like I said, we are down we're down to the last 2 outs maybe for Oklahoma. So, but I'm just saying, I don't know, the Major League Baseball draft, the fact that people even talk about it.
This year with the draft, there were 3 really, really, really kind of marquee hitters that could have been number 1 any other year. But I thought beyond those 3, it was relatively weak.
Bullshit right off the bat. The problem with prospects in baseball at this point, I don't care if they played college or coming out of high school, they haven't faced the same kind of pitching. I've seen a million prospects that can't miss, blah, blah. And then they see a professional curveball, and you know what? They're now selling insurance. I'm just saying, baseball is different.
Absolutely. That's why a baseball draft used to have over 60 rounds.
Right.
Is because they needed all of these guys to find 1 or 2.
My argument is, in college basketball, or the basketball draft and the NFL draft, those players, how do I want to say this? In my mind, I feel those players, have at least seen.
I think that basketball is way off, because I look at, like, I don't follow basketball that closely, but I look at the dominance of the Golden State Warriors, and like the key to that team is like a 14th pick and a 29th pick. It's like they don't really know where guys are going to fall. Like, when was Klay Thompson and
but that's still first round.
Curry. Yeah, but they only have really 1 round in basketball. The second round, nobody makes the team.
No,
but there's still 30 of the players available that are not already owned by teams. There
were 13 teams that got it wrong.
The people that are available
picked the head of Stephen Curry that are probably bigger jokes than what you hard people that turn out in basketball.
But my point is this. I still feel in my mind, and maybe someone could prove me wrong, and maybe there's no way to prove it. Hi, JJ, out in the. JJ refused. JJ's always telling me he's out to dinner with his wife during the round. Come on, I don't know. She only gives him 1 hour. He's allowed 4 hours a week to do a show. He's not allowed to come on ours. But my point is, still, I don't think any major league or any person that was drafted in this Major League Baseball draft this week has seen Major League Baseball pitching.
Nobody drafted the NFL draft has seen NFL.
No,
NFL
you're right.
defenses. Nobody in the NBA has seen
NBA.
You're
wrong. Running backs in the Big Ten have got hit by linebackers that are going to be playing in the professional football.
Guys in the college are facing off of pitchers that they're going to face off.
Even the pitchers in college don't end up having their stuff till later on. Meaning, you might see some guy that's throwing 97 a little bit, but you're never facing professional pitching until you're facing professional pitching. I just don't. That's what I'm in basketball.
Except for in football, you're in college. You kind of got sort of professional pitching, even though it's not professional. I mean, I guess you could say if they play Alabama, those guys are getting paid. So you get one.
No, payment has nothing to do with this. I'm saying
it's like you're creating a situation where the second tier team, the second tier group of play in college is somehow better than the second tier in basketball or the second tier in baseball. It isn't. It's like those guys are playing in college. The football players are playing in college. They're playing against college guys.
100% wrong. There are big football players.
And it's due to the rules. It's designed this way by the NFL.
Well,
you are not eligible for the NFL draft until you've been out of high school for 2 years. That's why you're right, EZ. These guys, if they were allowed to, some of them would have already played in the NFL for 2 years before they even get there. That's some of the most talented ones. That's part of why you're right.
But I think even Doug's getting mad. I'm saying this as a positive for baseball. I'm saying professional baseball is so effing hard that when you're a professional baseball player, the skill level you have is so superior to the people who cannot play professional baseball.
There is nothing in football or in basketball that compares to the preparation of playing a AAA game of baseball. Matter of fact, most AA teams are like that. These guys are good enough. If there were 60 teams, these guys would be playing. These guys are generally good enough. It's like in football, you play amateurs until you're a pro.
A lot of them just don't make it. It's that hard. I'm talking no miss AAA guys, people who hit 325 in AAA, and people that could not miss come up and look at professional pitching for a whole season and bat 274 for a couple of years, and they're out of the league. Why? Because
the preparation they had was so much better.
Professional pitching has the ability to adjust, and that's where I think
how can one day the Major League Baseball pitching be so darn good, and the step right below it be a joke by comparison?
No, okay,
you can't have it both ways, EZ.
I never said a joke. Here's the difference.
You're saying it's not good enough to train them on anything.
No, it's not. Here's why, Doug. Hold on.
So you flip a switch, and all of a sudden it becomes good enough.
No, what I'm saying is you pitching in the professional baseball pitchers are so skilled at adapting and changing and able to, when they see you for the 20th time, they've made adjustments. The college kid or the AA kid hasn't made adjustments for you. So you're still hitting that same ass curveball he's throwing or the same fastball down and out. When you face Glavin for the 20th time, he's now pitching at you specifically, your level of skill, what you're able to do. That's my point. You never see that. I'm not saying that a guy throwing 97 in college can't come up to the pros and throw 97. The difference is to stay a professional pitcher for 10 years, you have to adapt and be able to change in a game,
everything
over a month, over a season, over a career. To this day, I do not care what Hall of Famer you put on, pitcher or baseball, and you ask them, who is your nemesis? They'll name people. They'll go, I could never get that guy out. I could never hit against that pitcher. They had each other's numbers to a certain point. And they know their names. They know who it is. They know that, Pete Rose, one of the greatest hitters of all time, can name pitchers and go, I couldn't hit that guy ever. Why? Who knows? But some of it is professional pitching can change and adapt. And that's the skill level that they bring to the table.
But AAA pitching is professional pitching.
Huh?
But AAA pitching is professional pitching.
But professional pitching. But Doc, I've watched it. They're professional pitching, but they're down to the professionals with certain. I don't know. I lost the word I'm thinking. When they're pitching in AAA, they're working on things. They're still not even coming up. Winning that game doesn't even matter. Meaning, if the Reds, we have the minor league team here, the Dragons. The Reds say this guy's pitching today, and he's pitching 4 innings. I don't care how it goes. I don't care. He's pitching a perfect game, a no-hitter. I don't care. At the end of 4 innings or the end of 47 pitches, his ass comes out.
They're not ignoring the other pitchers. Yeah, you look at this. They'll have the one like blue chip prospect, which they're going to give this kid gloves to. But the guy that pitches the 1 inning in the 5th is getting the same kind of indoctrination.
But my argument is,
1 inning in the 6th.
Can't miss.
There's nothing in football or in basketball.
Draft only saw that pitcher maybe twice all season, if he saw him at all. And that's my point. They're not seeing quality pitching where the professional pitcher has the skill level of not just throwing pitches.
They're seeing literally they're literally sampling from the same body of players as the NFL does with the NCAA football and the NBA does with this, but somehow the baseball is worse. It makes absolutely no sense. It's like somehow this one sport this one sport, the 22-year-old who plays baseball is not an equivalent athlete to the 22-year-old who plays football.
Fuck you, double A.
I'm Doug. I think.
But and then the addition is that after they take that guy out of there, then they put him through this 3 to 5 year, gauntlet of minor league play where you go from one to another, and right when you get it, when you figured out you're one level down, they say, "All right, now we're going to make it harder. Jump to high A. Now we're going to make it harder. Jump to double A. Now we're going to make it harder. We're expecting you to pitch one end of a double header tomorrow at the major league level. Deal with it." Yeah,
I'm just saying
they are phenomenally more prepared in baseball than they are in the NFL.
The fan in me says hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things to do. Hitting a baseball from a skilled professional baseball player is by far the hardest thing to do. That's all I'm saying. And none of these guys that got drafted yesterday have done it yet. None of them hit off of a guy that's been in the major. None of them hit off of CC Sebastian. None of them hit off of somebody who's played.
You never know. They might have.
And they're now going to see those guys.
I once got a hit off of Roy Searage. he played in the big leagues and he was coaching at college. So
okay,
they might have hit college. They might have got a pro guy somewhere.
I need a mute button. Just to let you know, Oklahoma scored. This game is tied in the bottom of the 7th, 4-4. So Oklahoma was down to an out. We had tears. I love girls. One team is crying totally because there's definitely crying in softball, and then the other teams are jumping, cheering, But it is no outs though. But UCLA does have a runner on second already, so no outs, runner on second, just to keep you up to date. I'm just saying. Doug's my favorite co-host of all time. Thank you, Doug.
I mean, honestly, when
I know what you're saying, and
when there's a disagreement, it's a better show.
You're arguing with me because you love baseball. I'm saying I love baseball so much too that I think it is so hard.
I mean, you've heard me actually say that I like college football better than I like pro football. I've said that. I'm on the record for it. I'm more of a college football fan than I am a baseball. But the truth is, college football is not nearly college football and college baseball and college hockey and college basketball are roughly as good as each other.
Right.
And what baseball gives you is an additional level where they're much better than anything. Kyler Murray will have never seen when he starts playing football anything the level that AA baseball was in football. He's seeing teams that are fielding 100 guys, and they might be Indiana and they might be Notre Dame. And yeah, I guess Notre Dame and Alabama are 100 deep, but there's only about 11 or 12 teams that are like that. But the reason why you see all these 80-yard runs in college football is because most teams don't have guys on their defense that are that good. And if you get them right,
when I had Wesley Martin on the show, and we brought this up, and he said that. He said, yeah, on any given play, the odds are I wasn't going against another, professional level player, but I did go up against some, meaning, he played for Indiana. When he was playing against Ohio State, he was definitely playing against more, people who were more likely to become professionals. And then when he was playing Miami of Ohio, the odds are he was playing less guys that were probably going to play at the next level. When I've talked to him here recently, UCLA just won the game on a double. I don't know if Doug, did you see that? I'd like to see a replay. I thought she was out. I don't know if they have replay in
going to home.
Yeah, going to home.
She's safe. I didn't see a tag.
Well, the only thing I did notice is did the catcher. I couldn't tell if the catcher dropped the ball or not.
I thought the catcher got it, but it was thrown about 3-4 feet up the line. Yeah, the team in blue is very happy.
I missed it. But no, he has said even right now in practice at Washington, obviously like he's, every single play now I'm going against people that were the best in college, meaning, I only played against those every few plays. And now every single practice, the guy I'm lining up with is, better than most people I played against in college. I mean, it just flips that quick. It's another level. And I know that's hard to say. And that's what Wesley said. Us fans can think we know, we can do whatever.
My point is that when you go to single A baseball, right? the guys that are playing on a single A team are not only guys that have been the best in college, but they're literally guys that they've scouted the world to find the best player possible. It's actually a level higher than college that they have to get through on top of that. That's why they're prepared. Yeah, nobody's seen Major League pitching before, but the truth is they've seen professional pitching.
Season of Major League pitching will make or break your career in some cases. Meaning you see one time. We've seen that before. You see the guy who, the first time they face a great pitcher, he hits it out of the park. And then the next 47 times he sees him, he strikes out just because that pitcher just didn't know him. I mean, pitchers change quickly. I personally think pitchers adapt much quicker than hitters nowadays, but I think that
Gerard likes our discussion.
What?
It's JJ. He likes it. Guess Gerard.
Yeah, he said he's driving around. He's probably doing tours. It's probably not raining where he's at.
Not raining there.
So to end this argument, I'm back to what started all this. Baseball is so hard. It just is so hard, which I just believe the Major League Baseball draft is more of a, it's just more of a guessing game than the other drafts. And like I said, maybe I'm wrong. I
think it's a little bit of perception bias on it because like I'm saying, I'm looking at this. I'm not a basketball fan, right? But I'm looking at like the 2009, whatever. I thought this was the year that.
Yeah, but see, here's my problem. There's
names on here like Gerald Henderson and Earl Clark
on a team. You can't even. It's not even the same comparison because of the
number of players on the was drafted number 2 overall. He never played anywhere. I mean,
but again, that happens in every sport. You can't.
I think that if you take it like if you look at this, if you go through the first round of this, and matter of fact, if you go through the whole thing and you go, they're in NBA they drafted 60 players, and probably 15 of them make a team at some level. 3 of them make an impact. You're looking at a very, what's the percentage? That's 15 out of 60.
Because it's hard,
right? The percentage in baseball is the same thing. The difference is that a single team is making 15 picks.
No, my argument against that is in basketball. Still, this is what's hard for me to explain. I guess before you shoot the ball in basketball. There isn't somebody that's throwing something at your head. There isn't somebody, meaning if you're a shooter, you're a shooter. Yeah, you may not be good enough to make a team. But in baseball, it's the one sport where somebody else is interacting in the skill you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, where even in football, if you're a blocker and a good blocker, that's fine. You go out and block. You're working against the other thing. Just one other player. But in baseball, you have that guy is throwing a round thing. And he's trying to make you miss.
And
I mean, it's just a
playing 1 against 9,
huh?
And you're playing 1 against 9.
Oh, sure, but again, in basketball, when you're shooting the ball, yeah, someone might put their hand up or try to block or whatever. But if you're just in there, you're still just shooting. In baseball, yeah, you're just swinging, but that guy's trying to make you miss when you swing. I don't know. That's why I like baseball. It's got that. It's different.
It's the only game where the team on defense has the ball.
Oh, right. I mean, and
I don't think there's another game where you don't play even. Like it's always 2 against 2 or 4 against 4 or 5 against 5 or 11-11.
Right.
So is there any other game where it's like, I guess you could play like cutthroat or racquetball or pool or something where it's 2-on-1, but
right. Baseball, it's 1 versus 9.
Yeah.
But not even that. It's, again, it wouldn't be the same if the ball just sat on a tee and everybody got to hit the exact same, now we can judge players because that ball's sitting at the exact same spot. So it's all equal. Now we can see who's the better hitter because we're hitting off of a tee. Now we'd have to play on fields that were 800, we'd have to make fields a lot bigger, I guess, because
it's actually harder to hit
I know.
A long home run.
You have to generate more of the power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, okay. JJ is awake again. JJ says power play in hockey. Yes, there you're going.
There you go.
But that's still a unique part of the game versus baseball. It's always 1 versus 9.
Yeah, the power play is uneven, so that is something. When you make a statement and someone can find the exception, it's nice to hear it.
Yeah, damn it.
Yeah, exactly.
Those hockey guys, they always try to throw hockey in there, But even then, I'll give hockey that at least. I mean, even in hockey, at least in hockey, you do have, you are one-on-one when you're shooting the puck. Unfortunately in basketball, there's no goal. If there was goaltending, maybe I didn't say, yeah, basketball, you can goaltend and do some of that. And you can block shots, but in hockey, you're shooting it. That goalie has an opportunity to try to block it, but still in baseball, you have somebody that is his job, again, he's perfected the skill of putting that little round, ball in certain spots, and your skill's to hit it. And if he's better than you at his skill, you probably won't hit the damn ball. I don't care how good a hitter you are.
He's attempting to stop you from even getting to do something rather than prevent you from scoring after you've done something.
Right. That's true. Right. It's even it's the beginning of the offensive play, not at the end. And he has a lot of options, including the option of, I've faced you 87 times. I know you cannot hit the ball on the outside corner. And that's knowledge. A good pitcher knows that. I
just heard some stuff the other day that's along these lines that was fascinating to me. The reason veteran pitchers can actually get better with some of their secondary pitches, because when they're throwing bullpen sessions, they don't throw their secondary stuff. On a bullpen day, you go out, you throw your fastball, maybe a couple of your second pitch, and you're done. Your bullpen session's over. But so as guys age, they've thrown their other pitches more often, and they're finally starting to develop them after they've been in the league for 10 years.
Right. Well, the key to that third and fourth pitch, I've always been told, is obviously, not knowing how to throw it. Most pitchers
when to throw it.
Where it's going to be when it gets to the plate. Most of them, you can talk to most professional pitchers. They can tell you, I can throw 47 different things, but I can only get 3 where I want it to be at the end accurately. Right. So they're not comfortable throwing the rest of that stuff. Almost every professional pitcher, if you say, throw me a knuckleball, they'll throw you one. They'll never throw in the game because they just, and that's the same with the guy who comes in, again, we all know that, there's those pitchers that have just one pitch, maybe just 2 pitches. They even know how to throw 8 different pitches. They just won't never do it in a game because, now they might, when they're pitching year 10, they start going, hey, you know what? Now I do know that, this sinker that I've never thrown most of my career, I do know now I can put this sinker in a spot. Now it's a pitch for me. I don't know. That's what makes baseball great. It is 2 different games, one guy with a stick, one guy with a ball, and you're one's trying to, make you miss and the other guy's trying to hit it. And professional pitching, I'm sorry, once he's faced you 100 and some times, I think has a little more advantage because he has you guessing a little bit, so, whatever, Doug. I mean, I used to, when I was in my 20s, I paid attention to who the Reds drafted, and all that. And you know what? By the time I was mid 30s, I don't even know or care. The Reds have, I've seen, and again, obviously as before I was into fantasy, so I didn't pay attention to anybody but Reds draft picks. And it just started dawning on me, you know what? They draft all these people and I hear these names and I hear all this hoopla. And then I'm like, I never hear from them after that.
I don't understand why that is, because it is kind of strange. I mean, Kevin was saying he goes to College World Series, and like the NBA champions, the NCAA basketball championship is a huge thing. The NCAA football championship is a huge thing.
And in both of those sports, in both of those games, there are multiple players on those court or on that football field that will be on a professional team the next year. In the NCAA national championship game next Monday night, there may not be one player that makes it to the pros because now it's a team game. Now they all have prospects and they all have a kid or 2 that are drafted, but neither of those teams that play in the national championship next week may not have a kid that ever plays in a professional baseball game.
And definitely won't next season. Well, I can't say definitely. There has been a couple of exceptions. In fact, one of them was Brandon Finnegan.
Yeah,
got drafted from TCU and then pitched in the postseason that year. Yeah, that was very rare.
Right, but in football national championship and the college basketball national championship, you can almost say for a fact there's going to be a player on, if not multiple players in those games that will be playing.
Football, maybe. Basketball, no. basketball, like there's gonna only basketball. They're gonna make 60 picks. Only like 15, 16 of those guys are actually gonna make the rosters.
I guess I'd have to look back. I'd have trouble thinking over the last 10 years that the NCAA championship basketball game didn't have one kid that didn't go on to play professional basketball the following year. Now,
the championship game, probably you're right. The championship game, yeah, but I'm saying like the typical game.
Now, no, I'm talking the championship game.
I remember. Historically,
especially now that they come out as freshmen. If you're a freshman on the national championship game and you have a pretty good season, the odds are you're going to get drafted. And
I think of those like the NC State or the Villanova, the upset years.
And I'd be curious. JJ's out there. I don't know how that works in hockey. I have no idea.
Hockey's
the Frozen Four is a lot of fun to watch.
It's a big deal, but it's only a big deal.
Hockey guys are going on to play NHL hockey.
It's probably less. It's less than NBA basketball because hockey also has
international
a very good developmental league. They have minor leagues that are really the best hockey in the world outside of the NHL. Well, I guess they do have the league.
IHL.
Well, no, I mean like Russia's really good leagues and Sweden is really good leagues, but at one step below, Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, those leagues, teams like Windsor and whatever. It's like. They have the same problem that
and they even have leagues that are pre-college.
Yeah,
like I used to watch the Omaha Lancers, and they play in the league that Thunder Bay. A lot of people have heard of that minor league hockey team. Those kids are playing to try to earn college scholarships,
right?
In that league. So yeah,
but still, isn't hockey still? I don't know. I mean. I don't even know how it is. Back to, is there an age limit, or can't you come out of high school and play in NHL hockey? I mean, didn't Gretzky come right from high school?
He got an exception because he went to the World Hockey League, the other league where they didn't care. So I guess now you can do it, but before you had to go through a certain amount of whatever the rules were to actually play.
All right.
So, but he played up. I mean, Gretzky played in Canadian junior hockey leagues. He did.
Right. I know he didn't play college though. But I just don't know if in the NCAA championship hockey game, which is always funny, that is one of the few national championships where I have to go, I didn't even know that was a college. Minnesota versus, New Hampshire, something, Vermont, something college. I'm like, oh man,
North Dakota State's always up there.
Yeah, there's always
State's always up there.
Yeah. Now I think Boston College. I mean, actually, the Big Ten has pretty competitive hockey. And I think actually in the last 20 years, hockey's gotten a little more popular for colleges, but there was a time where you turn on, you go, who are these two teams? I've never heard of either one of these colleges, and they're in the NCAA.
And part of that is hockey. I don't know if it's still this way, but it used to be there was no Division II. You were either Division I or Division III. So a lot of schools you wouldn't hear of in other sports played Division I hockey.
Okay, so it's back to the old Indiana basketball, high school basketball. People make fun of that. Which they just changed. When I say just within the last 10 years, Indiana doesn't have Indiana now caught up with the rest of the world, and their small schools are, playing against their small schools and all that. But I mean, that's what made the movie Hoosiers was the big deal, was that was back when, a little teeny school was playing against some huge school from Indianapolis or whatever, or Fort Wayne, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But because back in those days, and, it was truly a state championship. You were the best team in the state because you played against everybody in that tournament. So, all right. Baseball, I'm still saying hardest game to play, and the hardest, game to, I don't know, to just pick who's going to be good at it. You just have to be able to adapt. And I think back to my thing. I think I would even, if I asked Wesley the next time he's on, I'm not sure how much Wesley has to change once he gets his skills and his footwork for the professional football and doing all that. Yes. Do you do film and say, okay, next week I'm going to be facing so-and-so on the other side of the line. Ooh. And he does this technique. So I got to work on this a little bit, but in the same, I would imagine though, pretty much your skill and what you're dealing with is almost the same every week. But in baseball, it changes every time you get up against a new pitcher. You know, I mean, your mental thought totally has to change. You're now, you know, and the same thing. And that pitcher is also looking at you and changing. I mean, it's just something I can't see it in any other sport where you have that, where, you know, it's just totally a different game when you get up there each time, you know? So, which again is what makes it hard, which to me is back to, I still think Doug took it personal. I still think that's what makes this game so much harder to determine how good someone's going to be, because you don't know how well they are going to adapt to change and how well they're going to grasp the in their head where, hey, I have to go up there thinking this time, you know, not just.
The crux of what I'm trying to say is that the guy who, when they drafted Kyler Murray #1, all those guys that have been drafted in the NFL draft that people are drooling over waiting to see play the thing, it's like it's the same pool of people that were drafted in the major league thing. It's harder because competition is fiercer and they're better at it, and there's it's harder to get up there. It's like I don't understand why the major league draft, how you could hate them, you could not enjoy the major league baseball draft, yet enjoy those other drafts, because it's the same thing. The National Hockey League draft works the same way, you know, and they have a minor league. And
I don't know, maybe some of it is just knowing the players, but I don't know. And like I said, hey.
No, yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what's great about the major league.
Not a stat guy. I'm sure there's people out there who say, no, the stats prove me 100% wrong. And I would say, okay, I'm wrong then. But I've never heard anyone truly come out with the stats and tell me the fact that, you know, that NHL are worse than Major League Baseball. And I get it. They are two different systems. You know, the baseball system is, you know, a minor league system. There's, you know, 3 levels and then the pros and all that. But, you know, I'm just saying they weed out a lot of what seem to be can't miss players, just seem to get weeded out at some point. So
I would say that the opposite happens on football, is that people get labeled can't miss and miss more in football and basketball because you only have that one round or whatever. It's like, well, I draft this guy, he's got to be good. And then it turns out,
hey, I think the drafting, all that is misses. I mean, all of the drafting is, you know, these are guys who their whole job is all year is do nothing but look at talent, and they still get it wrong in every sport, you know.
But I mean, like it would be ludicrous. I'd love to actually be the kind of guy that actually knew how all these high school guys are doing. Every now and then I know somebody, like you knew Wes personally. I know guys that played in like Maitland, East Altamont, and I'll know those guys. But the truth is, what happens on draft day is somebody will throw out this list of these are the 100 best prospects, and you start getting to know these guys right here. And this is the point when you start to get to know the players.
Right.
So that when, you know, 4 years from now, when, you know, JJ Bleday gets called up by the Marlins, you're not like, who the hell was that guy? He's like, yeah, remember him? He was the 4th overall pick. He had 3 home runs in that second to last College World Series game. And just before that, jumped up probably 10 spots. You at least the guys are part of your world now. Now in football, it works that way too, because you know, if you're a college football fan, and the truth is in America there are more college football fans than any other sport in America except for professional football. It's like they know these guys from when they played at Ohio State, when they played at Alabama, when they played at Auburn, and it's the same sort of feeling. It's like, yeah, I believe it's pretty good. I mean, did you see the great thing with the first overall pick, you know, Adley Rutschman, where he kicked for Oregon State and he tackled McCaffrey on a play. Like, that's the kicker. Well, that was kind of cool stuff, you know.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it, Doug. It's because it's recognizability, right? You're exactly right. People like us that are baseball fans, we're getting to know these guys now. People like us that are football fans get to know more of the pool of those football players. But the top guys, there are 100,000 people in attendance at every home Michigan football game. When that guy gets drafted, if it happens to be the Michigan quarterback's the #1 overall draft pick, for example, there's millions of people that already know who he is.
Right, the name there.
Yeah, the college football has much greater exposure.
Again, I'm guessing in the chat room tomorrow morning, you know, when there'll be 35 people that are baseball guys there, I bet other than a couple
cricket
like me, none of them watch the NCAA baseball tournament. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a handful that do, but most of them would say, well, no, I watched the Twins last night because they were on. I mean, Doug and me already talked about that, because it's just not, in there. It's just someone go, no, I'm just a Major League Baseball guy. I don't care about NCAA baseball. But if it was a football game, college football, they'd be watching it. We already know the NCAA championship game is a huge game. I mean, it's a huge audience. It's a Monday night. It's one of the top, rated sports events that we have in our country. And then next Monday, when we have the baseball one, nobody will be watching. A handful of people, and that's only the people who happen to be flipping on ESPN by accident and go, oh, I didn't know this was on. It won't even
be.
The
crazy thing is that the football one isn't even sanctioned by the NCAA. Every other one is sanctioned by the NCAA. This one isn't. It's just a bunch of guys decided to throw a playoff.
Right. So it's just like I said, it's two different things. Like I said, football people seem to. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like professional football rolls into college and vice versa. In baseball, it doesn't work that way to me. A lot of baseball fans are just baseball fans, but they're not going to watch even AA or AAA baseball. They're not going to watch college baseball. They're around here, it's a Reds fan. I'm going to watch the Reds. Around here, if you're not in fantasy, if the Reds aren't on, you're not watching it at all. And I think that's a lot. I think fantasy.
Yeah, there is that. The baseball is a lot more parochial than other sports are, though, than football at least.
Right.
I think basketball is pretty parochial too.
Right.
But it's like I was amazed when I started. When I started doing my show, I brought my friends that I would always talk baseball with, and it turned out that all they really wanted to talk about was Boston Red Sox. I'm like, I guess that's the way people are. I grew up a Cubs
absolutely.
fan. And, I grew up a Cubs fan, and we were bad.
There is a reason that ESPN puts on the Yankees and Red Sox every Sunday night. I still don't know how the schedule works out that way, that every Sunday night those two teams are playing because they're on ESPN every Sunday night. But obviously, it happens to be that way because there's more fans that either hate or love those teams, I guess.
I always say there's two kinds of people who watch baseball. There's Yankees and Red Sox fans, and there's baseball fans.
And I grew up and come from smaller communities as well, EZ, and there's a large percentage of people in your community that go to the high school football game Friday night. They're watching the Buckeyes on Saturday, and they're watching the Bengals on Sunday, each and every week during football season. Right. Every level, they're watching every level. That just doesn't happen in any other sport, not just baseball as much. Maybe college basketball and high school basketball a little bit, but not as much as football.
I agree. And obviously I said, even high school football around here is a huge thing. I go every Friday night.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would say that in everywhere except for the Northeast, high school football is huge.
I don't want
to you get that New York, New Jersey up everywhere else.
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe not Hawaii. I don't know what Hawaii is like.
It's huge here.
The stat used to be Ohio was the fourth largest, or the fourth state. We had more college and football players come out of Ohio. If I'm not mistaken, it was California, Florida, Texas, Ohio. Those used to be the four top.
And then I believe Louisiana probably.
Yeah. And I don't know how many years back that stats was in my head, so I don't know if it's still current.
The question comes out of how they decide somebody's from Ohio versus somebody's from Florida. Because if a guy goes to Boynton Beach High School but signs at Ohio State, what? Well,
no, I think they base it on where he actually played high school football at.
This is a true thing. Like for
I know what you're saying.
For 2 years, there was a college football post game all-star game called Florida versus the World, where we just took guys from Florida and they played guys from every other state. And it was just kind of interesting how they decided when somebody was from Florida, because sometimes that guy was
from Ohio and then he went his dad moved down there for 4 weeks.
Sometimes that guy was from Ohio and he played for Florida State, and sometimes the guy was from Miami but he was playing for Nebraska. But those are the Florida guys,
Right. I'm just saying, it's California. As far as I know, it's California, Texas, Florida, and Ohio. And what order it is, I know Ohio is probably third or fourth on that list, probably still. I'm pretty sure Florida and California and Texas are the three big ones.
Yeah, I would stand the reason that the three biggest population states would be big, but New York really doesn't play football, which is strange.
But my point is, Ohio is a pretty big high school / college / again, in my community, we're a Buckeyes community. Sunday afternoon, there's Buckeyes flags flying everywhere. Now, there's those few strangers that put blue out on their porch, but we try not to talk to those people.
Well,
Memorial Stadium where the Cornhuskers play would be the third largest city in Nebraska every Saturday during home football.
100,000 people.
Home games.
I spent a lot of time in Toledo.
Yeah, it's 100 yet. It's about 90. But that used to be the case when it only held 70. 70,000 would be the third largest city in the state.
Right. Well, and again, I think if I'm not mistaken, aren't the 4 or 5 top stadiums in the country all college football stadiums? I'm pretty sure as far as the
capacity wise, absolutely.
I think they're all college football
Michigan,
stadiums.
Tennessee, Pasadena.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Texas has high school stadiums that are bigger than, I'm trying to think.
Like you remember that there was that
4 high school stadiums that are bigger than like 85% of the colleges have. That's how big football is in Texas. Their high schools have stadiums that seat 30,000.
I know some of them they play at what's the big, they did that whole like TV series Friday Night Lights about that one school in Texas.
That was Odessa Permian.
Yeah, Permian. Those guys play their home games at like the Houston. They used to play
right. Some of those places, but I'm talking actual college or actual high schools on their campus have these 20,000 seat stadiums for high school football.
If you drive the roads between the cities, as you're going across the country and you come to some little town, the thing that always stick out is there's always a big football field.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether you're in Indiana or you're in
Texas. Netflix has that series on where it's the second chance kids, the kids that are it's the junior college. I think they've had 3 seasons now. I'm trying to think of it's like Hard Knocks, but it's at a college, but it's at a junior college where these kids are kids that didn't have the grades to go to Michigan or Ohio, whatever. And they're playing these junior colleges where the same thing, this junior college that they film this at, there's like one little dinky stoplight and hardly any, technically not even a downtown. And then as you drive out, there's this small little college and then boom, this huge stadium, because this team is one of the, the team that they did switch it last year, but the first 2 years, the team they were filming was, one of the, junior college national champions, 2 years in a row or something like that. But, they weren't paying players or anything, but I
know like I
has different rules on.
I went to a high school that was known for pumping out football players, and there was like a couple of JUCOs that would come and just like anybody that didn't get an offer somewhere, it's like you can just go to Loras College and we'll take you. So like everybody who played, and they didn't pay him, but they gave him room, board, and tuition for 2 years, which is
Kevin. Kevin's looking at me like Kevin, have you not seen the show I'm talking about?
I don't think I have. I'm going to look for it later tonight.
Very, very entertaining. For a couple of reasons, which is also why they had to change schools, because the coach, the first 2 seasons, the coach, and I give him credit. He is dealing with kids that physically could be playing at top schools, but they're not educated enough. He's dealing with kids that have problems, so he has to be their father figure. He has to be hard on them. And trust me, he is hard on them. It's
called Last Chance U.
First season, what's it called? Last Chance U. Thank you. It's called Last Chance U. When my wife first watched it with me, she went, they let him talk to kids like that. He was verbally, most people that had no clue what was going on just watch me go, that's the most abuse I've ever seen someone, verbally do to somebody. Not just in private, did it in front of a camera that he knows it shows up.
I'm barely old enough to have experienced that. That was still the norm when I went through high school sports.
Right, yeah, I was too. Right.
It was normal when I went to school, but then
I think where when you practice football, there was no water. There was no.
I forget what what was the movie about Bear Bryant when he was at A&M?
Where they practice out in the desert or that.
Yeah, I didn't understand what was so crazy about it and what the uproar was. I was like, we did that in high school.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, I remember the coach just telling the water guy, just take that away. Meaning, guys, you don't even get to look at water, which now cracks me up. I
remember a guy who broke his leg and like he didn't know he broke his leg. And so he's like, hey coach, I'm having trouble. Guy's like, well, run 5 laps. And he runs 5 laps on a broken leg. He's like, it's still hurting. And coach, like, run 5 more. Like, he made the guy run like 20 laps
on a broken leg.
It turns out his leg was broken the whole way.
Like I said, I've always said the worst baseball coach I ever had was my dad, just because, dads didn't give you a break, not in our days. Nowadays it's different. You can look at the dad, the coach's son and the dad and go, all right, now, but in my day, dad was, like, oh my God, the worst coach I ever had was my dad.
It's one of those things that goes one way or the other. Either the coach is too nice to his kid or he's too hard on his kid, and you can never balance it right.
Right. It's tough. It is.
Our
tough.
baseball coach was awesome. The players loved him. The parents hated him. And for at practice, anything went. Everything came out of his mouth. But on game day, he would try to censor it. And he was usually good for about an inning and a half. But by the 3rd inning, it was catch the fucking ball. Yeah. Trying to hold it under his breath, but it wasn't under his breath.
Right. And nowadays, some kid on the bench that wasn't playing would be filming on his phone.
Right.
Discussing it.
I went to a Catholic all boys school, so the funny one would be like it'd be halftime, and they'd like this like every third word, just fuck, and then it would end with, well, let's pray.
Yeah. right. It's right. I mean, again, it's even the Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight, what he did at the end was what every coach did at the beginning, back in the day. You just, you got physical, you felt you were trying to, and again, I'm not defending anybody that physical abuse personally, but at the same time, Bobby was from that era where I'm going to make this kid better one way or the other, and I'm just saying, Last Chance U. I've
seen it and didn't realize what it was. I'm definitely going to check it out now.
Because a lot of the kids, again, a couple of them, and it was a big deal. One of the kids on one of the early shows just got drafted like this year, because obviously they're going there for their freshman and sophomore year. Mm-hmm. And, if they're good enough, then that's the whole goal of the show. You got to give me 2 great years and I'll get you. Then you can go back and play at Michigan, or you'll be able to go play your junior and senior year at, Texas or, whatever. And that's the thing. This show's about that old now. There's been 3 seasons. So there's kids that are just now that were on season 1 that now are in the pros. There's a handful of them now that are, making it
as your comptroller. I got to tell you that we're 7 minutes to midnight.
I know. I saw that.
We don't have to stop, but you told me that I need to tell you that.
I've got to get better at stop. Nobody wants to listen to us go on for 2 hours, let alone 3. And Kevin, I'm sure it's going to stop raining in Hawaii soon. No, we had a good conversation. Nothing that was even on my topic other than the nickname thing. Because the Reds had their thing on there, the Big Red Machine. I forgot Little Joe Morgan. Little Joe. That was Joe Morgan was Little Joe. That's hardly a nickname. We just call someone Little in front of his name. But we had Charlie Hustle.
Well, they had a thing where they just kind of like condense the name, like Cargo or A-Rod. Like those aren't good.
Yeah, right. A-Rod. Now, then again, if you say A-Rod, everybody knows you're talking about. But yeah, that's just abbreviation of their name, But no, they just threw out a few that I had forgot about. Trying to even think now. Clay, you guys, you remember Clay Carroll, big redhead that pitched for the Reds in the 70s.
I remember
Clay Carroll. I'm trying to think because that was the one I went. Oh, I'm trying to think now what they called him, because I remember. Oh, I forgot that's what they called him, but. Because again, they were random nicknames that they're Cincinnati Reds guys, So I just think it's funny. Kevin's been a Royals fan for a long time, and the Royals didn't have.
I always heard they called
Jackson have a nickname. I mean, or is Bo the nickname? Bo Jackson.
It was Bo, yeah. Bo knows.
Right. Bo doesn't seem like a real name. I mean, I'm obviously, I'm sure that was a
But
name.
it was Bo Jackson at Auburn, so
Oh, right. But
if it was a nickname, it came long before that,
What
I'm
was
sure.
Dave Concepcion's nickname? He had like an insulting nickname. Like he was like a error guy or whatever.
Dave Concepcion?
Yeah.
Dave Concepcion didn't air much. That boy was, he was one of the greatest shortstops.
No, he was given the nickname by Tony Perez, and it kind of stuck. It was a fairly negative one. I was wondering if they mentioned
that. Might, I couldn't, now you say that. I don't even know. I can't recall that Tony Perez had a nickname. But, I'm trying to think, what are there great players that just never had a nickname? Back to George Brett. George Brett, no nickname that I can think of. I'm just trying to, I mean, you can be a great player and not have a nickname. Hammer and Hank, right? Wasn't Hammer and Hank Aaron? Wasn't he also a hammer? I think obviously we've had a lot more hammers, but Mickey Mantle, didn't Mickey Mantle have
Well, he was like the Splendid
Splendid Splinter or something like that. Isn't that right?
I did want to call it out on the thing. It's like we did this on our show. We do trivia, and the guy that I brought on, we were doing trivia about retired numbers, and the question was, what's the lowest non-retired number by the Yankees? And the one guy actually answered 7. I'm like, come on.
Hold on.
It's like, come on, you got to know who Mickey Mantle is.
If you just list of baseball nicknames, I just Googled it on, Hammer and Hank comes up. They show that as number 1.
He was the Mick, just the Mick.
Oh, right, the Mick, right.
The Commerce Convert.
Okay, I forgot. Sparky Anderson did have a second nickname. He was called Captain Hook. I do remember a Cincinnati Reds fan. Captain Sparky Anderson was known as Captain Hook. I'm trying to go down here. Names. Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks. I would agree. Unfortunately, the Cubs have had a lot, but when you say Mr. Cub, I would have known Ernie Banks.
Yeah.
See, Johnny Bench, the little general. I'd have never got that. As far as I know, Yogi Berra, they're saying Yogi's his nickname, but again, I think that's a childhood name. I'm not counting that one. So to me, Steve Carlton was the lefty. Gary,
how about Oil Can?
Oil Can Boyd, that's a good one. I forgot Gary Carter was called the Kid, and I could never tell you why. I just remember Gary Carter always being called the Kid. So that's not Roberto Clemente. The nickname was Bob. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. Okay, here's a good one. What was Ty Cobb's nickname?
The Georgia Peach.
Yeah, there you go. I believe we should have got that one. That's one we probably should have got.
You do tours in Hawaii. I used to do tours in Georgia, and some of the tours were like historical. And I used to do one that was on baseball, and I would take people. We'd end up at the house where Ty Cobb's mom killed his dad, which is kind of cool.
Here's another one, which I think we have.
I know those guys real well.
See, I think actually this one's not even far. Carlton Fisk. You guys know what his nickname was?
Well, he's one of the many Pudges.
One of the Pudges, right? But to me, he was the original Pudge, right?
I think he was the original Pudge. Yeah.
Right. I would agree with that. The Iron Horseman is Lou Gehrig.
Yeah, that's one.
Should have got that one. That's one we didn't even. Goose Gossage is the Goose. Hammer and Hank Greenberg. Tony Gwynn. I don't know. Mr. Padre to me doesn't count as a nickname. Now, I do believe he is Mr. Padre, but it's not the same as being called Mr. Cub, is it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess he is the face of the team the same way. Just right. I guess being the face of the Cubs is probably a bigger deal than being that.
Well, most of these are all pretty. Al Kaline, Mr. Tiger. I'm amazed how many of them are just called the.
If you go to Baseball Reference, there's always they always talk about the one Travis Shaw. In that they say his nickname is the mayor of Ding Dong City.
Now the professor.
No one calls him that. Somebody wrote that into that thing, which is.
You guys tell me who the professor is by the nickname.
The professor.
Yeah, I would have not got it. Greg Maddux, the professor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay, you know what? Here's one we didn't get. Come on. One of the greatest baseball players of all time we didn't name. I mean, the Say Hey Kid. How do you, the Say Hey Kid, that's not just a nickname. He got a sentence. That's the Say Hey Kid. That's I would say that's one of the major, you say the Say Hey Kid, we know who we're talking about, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Stan the Man Musial
The Man.
would have to be one that it's hard not to, Kirby Puckett is called the Puck. I'm not, Pee Wee Reese. I'm not.
Legrand Orange.
Cal Ripken.
Cal Ripken was.
Oh, come on. That was not even hard. I'd have never got it without thinking about it, but he's the Iron Man, right? Cal Ripken was the Iron Man. Babe Ruth.
One with that one you don't have to say his name. Nails was a.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Don Sutton, Black and Decker. I assume that has something to do with something.
Those things are something to do with something.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. And that, unfortunately, they don't give you that. That might be the better part of the story. Smokey Joe Robinson, Ted Williams, the Splendid Splinter, Teddy Ball Game, Thumper, or the Kid. That boy had a bunch of nicknames. And another kid, Robin Yount, was also the Kid.
And you had Junior, which is Griffin.
Yeah. So, all right, we're gonna call it a night. We
won.
Huh? Yeah,
we went
over one. I just, I don't know. Just, hey, nicknames are crazy, but I do agree. Are you allowed to nickname yourself?
It'll never really, the way nickname, like I've really avoided nicknames my entire life because I'm a little bit disturbed in the brain. So like the trick to getting a nickname is someone has to call you something and has to annoy you enough that you make a deal out of it, then the nickname sticks.
Right.
People have called me things and I just kind of let it go. Who cares, right? And so it never sticks. So if for the same reason you can't, because in order for nickname to stick, it's got to be a little bit of teasing with it. So you can't go, I want everyone to call me the Chief, and then they do it, Right. I mean, they might do it sarcastically, but that's the best. Like, I remember Shaquille O'Neal when he was in Orlando, he's like, I forget what they used to call him, but they called him Shaq, and he wanted to be called the Big Socrates,
Right.
It's like, yeah, we occasionally called him Big Socrates as a joke, making fun of him,
Right. And usually, you're right. Sometimes nicknames were negative, but they stuck.
But it's part of that.
Here's what I got, and I only get it because he became a Cincinnati Red eventually. The nickname the Cobra, baseball player.
Oh, Dave Parker.
Yeah, I forgot all about him being called the Cobra.
That was one of the more fun teams to watch. That We Are Family team. They had they had the Hitman and Pop Stargell, and they all had
Pop. You actually can see each team. And some of them have a ton, and then some teams have like four people that had nicknames. All right. Hey,
apparently, according to this, I'm looking up Black and Decker. Don Sutton was called that because he was a master at doctoring the baseball, hence the non-plume. Like he would use it.
I see. Now here's why. Now wait a minute. What about Junior? Is Junior enough if you just say Junior? To me, unfortunately, I think, I'm a NASCAR guy, so I think of
different juniors like that, yeah.
Baseball. If you say Junior in baseball, don't we all know that's Griffey? I mean, isn't that Ken Griffey is Junior, right?
That or Bobby Wood Jr.
No way. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. is the greatest baseball player of all time ever. He obviously gets to keep the nickname. Chris Sabo. You guys remember Chris Sabo?
Oh yeah.
Four Eyes?
Spuds. No, remember Spuds McKenzie was a big deal back then, and they nicknamed him Spuds. Tom Seaver. Last one. We'll leave on this one.
Tom Thrift.
There you go.
There's actually a big thing today, like something about somebody called Tom Brady Tom Terrific, and it irritated fans.
Yeah, right.
Just like this weekend or something.
Yeah. I just read something about that this morning. Yeah.
Hey, I don't. The details on that? I don't. This is me. This is me always bringing up a new topic as we're signing off.
We're not. Okay. Doug, before we go, Doug, when and where's your next show?
Actually, I'm going to be on Thursday night with Thursday night 10 o'clock ish, say 10 to 10:05 with with Dan. We're also doing our normal show at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. If anyone's interested in doing a show on Saturday, Lou and I are like the Saturday team. We do a 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock show. We are committed to trying to find something to go in between us, and we'll help that person out if he wants to do it. And who knows, we might just go, like, we might add 30 minutes to our show, 30 to his show. But it seems kind of silly. Those two shows are both very good. They're great recaps of the week. He does all the waiver wire stuff. Right. I do all the injuries and player movements. And if we just had one show in between that like covered, scores for the week and stuff, it would be a great 3-hour block on Saturday. Your
10 o'clock show, and unfortunately, my biggest thing was when we changed formats. When we were on, which, hey, trust me, I'm glad we're on Spreaker. I like it a lot better. But the difference is, because every podcast has their own now, if you want to get a if you want to get an announcement, or I'm trying to think of the word I'm thinking, if you want your cell phone to beep when there's a show on that you like, you have to go in and click favorite for every single show on Lenny's network. Yeah. I've not done it for everybody. Where in the old time, all you do is go into Mixler and just click Lenny's name, and then whenever there was a show on the network, you'd get your phone would beep. So I am missing shows now because I haven't liked enough shows yet to favorite.
Lou and I were talking, and we're like, the two shows we do are really good shows. They serve a real niche in the market because they're the only shows that look at the baseball thing on a weekly basis versus a daily basis.
Right.
And people are coming up with waiver picks, and they're coming up with 2-star pitchers and that sort of stuff. If we get that thing going, I mean, the Saturday morning, we both believe and we're both committed to trying to make it as good as anything else on this network.
Okay.
So we're looking for help. If anyone wants to just be a voice, you'll have me, who I'm meticulous to a fault with what I do, and Lou's a consummate expert as coaching you through it.
All right. Well, we'll put it out there. Kevin, did we lose you or not? I think Kevin's camera locked up. But yeah. Kevin will be on what? Did he say? He just does Thursdays at 3 o'clock after JJ, because I'm usually in the chat room. And thanks, chat room. I know JJ was actually out there this time. Looks like Cha popped in at the last minute. He has back pain from now he's a dog walker. It cracks me up. Cha is now a professional dog walker. Sounds like a good job for him. I will be on tomorrow night at 10 o'clock with Chris. Part 3 of our 97-part series of how to create the best fantasy football league. We're going down a whole list of things, and
I listened to some of it.
Tomorrow we're going to be talking about actual rosters and some of that. So that's tomorrow night at 10. Lenny will be on, I'm guessing, tomorrow at, I mean, he obviously wasn't on this morning at 10. It was Andrea. He had an appointment, but I'm assuming he'll be on tomorrow. Kevin, we lost you for just a minute. When is your next show? Thursday at 3, right, Kevin?
Yeah, Thursday at 3 Eastern, following JJ. On the rare occasion he finishes up a couple of minutes early, I try to start right away so that there's not dead air there.
Yeah, that's good. All right, guys, I appreciate you for showing up tonight and helping me out. And like I said, we'll be back here again. Chat room. This show is for the chat room. If you want to be on, I put the link out there. Anybody's welcome to come on and talk some crazy ass topic. So, hey, Lenny, Melnick, FantasySports.com, the Legend Sports Network. This is Easy Kill. You can find me at a Fantasy Fan. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody in the chat room. Say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justafantasyfan.com. Say good night. Good night.